morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 on a Monday morning. That means that it is time for the random object from the randomographer. It's time for copy and sketch in the mornings live. I'm going to start by spritzing these watercolors because I like them nice and juicy. I don't like having to scrub them later on. This gives them a chance to soak up a little bit, be ready for me. Just set those out of the way until I'm ready for them. This is the time of day when we pull a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, a toy from the toy box, and we draw it. We talk about it. Do this for about 30 minutes every day. Every day. This is my daily practice that I share with you. You guys, my art buddies, keep me accountable to my art practice, and I certainly appreciate that. Because I can be laying there in bed thinking, man, I just really don't want to. Then I remember I've got people downstairs that are waiting, and no way to tell them I can't come. Just going to do a little composition. I think this time for the composition, I'm just going to make it big, because the whole point of the composition is just to make sure that everything fits on the page where you expect it to, and that you have room for everything that you want to put on the page. So we'll knock that composition out real quick, and that's about all the composition you need. From here on out, we're going to start adding details so that we can have some anchor points. But anyway, these are the Pyramids of Giza. This is a set of Egyptian toys from a safari. I'm told they are accurately placed, lined up the way that the temples are actually lined up in Giza, in Egypt. The proportions are off a little bit. The placement is off a little bit. They don't touch. But they look like they touch from where if you're standing in the right place, they look like they might touch. So I can see why the 3D printer might have made that decision. The music's playing. My mom's asking if the music's playing. Can you not hear the music? I don't want it too loud. The show's not about the music. Music is just something so that when I can't remember to talk, you're not stuck with dead silence listening to my pencil scratches. Anyway, so the Pyramids of Giza, they're about 4,500 years old. You know, we hear stories that they're 10,000 years old or something like that, but they're about 4,500 years old. They are one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. They're the only of the ancient 7 wonders of the world still standing due to war and conflict throughout the world, throughout the region. They're the only of the 7 wonders of the world still standing. 4,500 years old. Cleopatra was closer to having pizza at Pizza Hut than she was to having been around when the pyramids were built. The pyramids are that old. They were already ancient by the time Cleopatra came around. These are all interesting facts to me. But the one that really got me was, these are not built by slaves. We've been told for centuries that these were built by slaves, even Semitic slaves, but they were not built by slaves. There's no evidence that they were built by slaves. There were They were built by state-sponsored workers who had health insurance, and a little cemetery and religious rites. And that's interesting. Because we've been told our whole lives. Charlton Heston lied to us. Actually, Charlton Heston didn't. The Ten Commandments movie didn't say they were building pyramids. They were actually building a party village for Ramses. But you have to see the pyramids in all of those Egyptian movies, because that's how you know it's Egypt, right? We've talked about this before. If you're in Mexico, it's the Day of the Dead. If you're in Spain, it's the Running of the Bulls. If you're in Paris, you can see. If you're in France, you can see you can see the Eiffel Tower. No matter where you are in France, you can see the Eiffel Tower. If you are in Egypt, you can see the pyramids. So if you're in Egypt, if the movie's set in Egypt, you will see the pyramids. So Cecil B. DeMille was not just trying to make you think that the Semitic slaves of the Ten Commandments, the Hebrew slaves, were building pyramids. He just wanted you to know they were in Egypt. These things are aligned with, they believe they're supposed to represent Orion's belt. They had historical significance because Orion's belt had something to do with Osiris, and they believe that the pyramids were aligned with, not necessarily aligned, but representative of Orion's belt. And their alignment is unique because they are within 1/20th of a degree of true north, not magnetic north, not in alignment with. They wouldn't have used Polaris. Polaris is the North Star that we use today, but they wouldn't have used Polaris. They would have used Thuban, which is down and to the right of Polaris, our North Star, the North Star that we are used to talking about and have been using for hundreds of years. 4,500 years ago, they would have used Thuban. But in the last 4,500 years, Thuban has shifted off axis because the Earth wobbles in its ellipse. The Earth wobbles. Hey, Ivy. And because the Earth wobbles, the Thuban is no longer our North Star. Polaris is our North Star. Am I running out of ink? Nope. Polaris is our North Star. It feels like I'm running out of ink. I may have a chunk of paper or something stuck up in there. Hang on a second. I'll take this over the technical difficulties we had last week. Having to refill my pen is nothing compared to my camera stopped working in the middle of a broadcast. Or my microphone. Just trying to get some of these more subtle details before I erase the pencil lines. I'm not at all trying to be accurate with the steps of these pyramids. I'm just making sure that I have a hint that they're there. Okay, that's enough of that nonsense. Let me make sure I have the border marked off, and then I'm going to erase my pencil marks. The age of the pyramids being 4,500 years old, they weren't discovered. You know, you see in all the movies how they discovered the pyramids. These pyramids were not discovered. These pyramids have never been lost. Oh, Ivy says she's her own gremlin this morning. And my mom's telling me to be quiet about the gremlins because it invokes them. But these pyramids were never lost. You see in movies how they found the pyramids, they've discovered the pyramids. You know, you can discover the pyramids all you want to, but if you turn around, there's a Pizza Hut right there. I mean, they're just these things. There's apartment complexes. You can look out your window and see the Great Pyramids from your apartment complex. They're right there. They're right there outside Cairo. Civilization never moved on from this. They just lost their understanding of it. There have been several different civilizations that have been in control there since they were built. The Semitic people did come in about 1,000 years later and take over, and then they melded, and then they didn't like being melded, and they left and wrote a book about it. And that's all I had to say about that. Anyway, didn't like it, and then they wrote a Jilted Lovers book. But here we are, 4,500 years later, still talking about the marvel of these pyramids and just the technological advances, just the technological, not advance, but achievement. Because these guys moved these big rocks out in the middle of a desert. Built this huge thing, and then the thing that gets everybody's attention is, and then forgot it. It was looted almost immediately after it was built. There are no treasures inside of it that we know of. I'm not going to say there's not still antechambers that we're not aware of, but it was looted almost immediately after it was built. So they say the priests actually robbed the place right after it was built, right after whomever it was built for died. So there's no treasure inside of it. There's no hieroglyphs on the wall. This predates the hieroglyphic testimonials that were written like 200 to 1,400 years later. They find tombs from 200 to 1,400 years later that talk about the great pyramids and talk about the achievement and talk about and describe what was inside of it and all that kind of stuff. But the actual stuff was already gone. So they've been empty for 4,000 years. They've been absolutely empty. The only thing, and the only markings on the walls are stuff from the construction crews, and once it was deciphered, people always thought this must be something very important, and then it was deciphered, and it was like this side up. Honestly, it was construction notes to say which direction to something was supposed to go. The construction crew wrote graffiti on the walls. The drunkards of Menkwe, Kafka's crew. And to me, that's the best part, because it's like, look at this sacred writing. Hello, sweetie. There's only a very small contingency of people that will get that joke. That was a mistake. I made the background shadow too dark. Now I have to go back in and make the contact shadows darker. Yeah, we'll be all right. It'll work out. It's mind-blowing. Here's Ivy in the chat. It's mind-blowing how much we don't know about the pyramids. Like, how? Did those folks not have families that lived there and talked about the big structure? It's because the area was defeated, Ivy. There were two other armies that came in and took over since these things, at least two other armies that came in and took over since these things were built. And the language of the area changed because of the invading culture. Kind of like the way nobody speaks Hopi in the public school system in Arizona. The invading culture didn't bother to learn the language. And I don't mean that to say that we're invading. I just mean that they just didn't learn the language. When the regime changed, they didn't learn the language. That's all I was hinting at before we started some kind of political war conversation. That's all I was talking about. Was when the regime changed, we didn't bother to learn the language. Let me dry this real quick and get my foot out of my mouth. I'm going to try and lift some of this back off. I don't want this dark over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet that, reactivate that paint, and then I'm just going to try and soak a little bit of it off. Same with this little spot right here. You can take a really stiff brush and scrub it, and it'll lighten it up a little. I don't really want to dig for a stiff brush right now. Yeah, I don't really want to dig for a stiff brush right now. We're just going to lighten that up just a little bit. Remembering that this is a morning sketch and not a finished painting. It's just going to bug me that the shadow on the white paper should not be darker than the contact shadow on the stone. All right, I think that helped a little. Don't you think that helped a little? Yeah. So Ivy's in the chat saying she's had the Wabash River flowing through her backyard her whole life, and she's just now buying books about it, reading books about it. I'm kind of doing the same thing. This show has got me studying stuff that I thought I knew. And you live your whole life thinking you knew something, and there's an age of discovery. Everybody goes through this age of discovery where they're learning all of this new stuff. They're exposed to all this new stuff. And the stuff you learn in the 8th grade in the United States, the stuff you learn by the 8th grade is pretty much the stuff you're going to believe for the rest of your life unless you were given another credible source of information. And so people are told that the pyramids are 10,000 years old in elementary school. They're tens of thousands of years old. They're told that in elementary school, and then nobody ever questions it again, and it never comes back up. And we watch movies with Charlton Heston and Elizabeth Taylor. Nobody under 40 knows who those people are. But we watch those movies, and those movies show us the pyramids and stuff, and tell you they were there during this crisis and this conflict. Whether they were or not, we don't question it. It's past our age of curiosity. We've already established those. We've already established those time frames, so we don't question it anymore. So I find myself doing research on these things, going, what? Like Thuban, the North Star that the Egyptians used. Polaris is the North Star. No, not 4,000 years ago. Polaris was not the North Star. I left some white around the sepia there so that I could come back in with kind of a yellow-orange to add texture. Colorization. So there's that. Hey, Omar. Omar from Egypt. Good to see you, buddy. Let me dry this real quick and then we'll ink it. I know this is why Omar's here. It's for the hair drying. I know Ivy showed up for the hair drying. I know Claudia and Elizabeth are going to be upset they're missing it. I know y'all showed up just for the hair drying. Let's see, sitting there now. Just the picture. All right, that's enough of that nonsense. What time is it? Oh, it's 5:54. We got to wrap this up. Okay, so the pyramids, the Great Pyramids of Giza. I'll tell you, these things bring in about 15 million people a year. They have about, excuse me, they have about 15 million visitors annually. And Giza alone is responsible for about $368 million of Egypt's economy. And Egypt is fully aware of this fact. Egypt is fully invested. The conflicts, whenever there's a conflict in the region, everybody makes fun of American education, especially when it comes to geography. But honestly, worldwide, nobody really understands the geography of a country they don't live in. They don't pay attention to the geography of a region they don't live in. So something could be happening in Turkey, and people go, "Oh, that's right next to Egypt. I can't go to Egypt." And you know, it's a long ways off, but it's close enough that there's a perception of danger, and so it affects tourism. And Egypt is astutely aware of this. They are heavily involved in the peace negotiations in the region because their tourism is their livelihood. It's a big chunk of their livelihood. Their tourism, every time during the Gulf War, for instance, their tourism went down 30%. Can you imagine losing 30% of our economy over something that you weren't really involved in? And so Egypt is heavily invested in the peace processes throughout the Middle East. And they are heavily invested in security and safety around especially their historical sites like the Great Pyramids, like the tombs. They're especially invested. Other countries didn't make that investment early on, and various regimes have come in and destroyed stuff like the Baal temple in Syria or the Buddhist temples in India. But Egypt learned from that and said, no, we're going to protect our antiquities. And you know, they've been working to get their antiquities back from the British Museum and other museums from around the world because they are fully aware of the importance of their antiquities to their economy. But what that means is, while there is a perception, because we have a limited understanding of geography in the region, while there is a perception of danger and fear, there really is not. It's really considered very safe to go to Cairo and see these. I would really like to. When I was reading the tourism sites about Cairo and about Cairo and the pyramids and the other places, the biggest concern, this is no joke, the biggest concern, the Americans, the citizens of the United States would pretend to be Canadian when they spoke to people locally, but not because of fear or danger. It's because they didn't want to talk politics. It's because anytime somebody said they were an American, they had to deal with, man, what's going on with your president, blah, 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 blah. And people would not want to talk about that. So they pretend to be Canadian. I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, there's our Pyramids of Giza. There's our Egyptian pyramids. No, Omar, it is not true that Trump put Egyptians on the blacklist. That is not true. Not that we're aware of. We actually don't talk about, I don't want to get into politics, but Egypt's not one of the countries we talk about when we talk about the dangers of the Middle East. Egypt is not really one of the ones we talk about. We do make fun of tourism, and we do that with every country that has a tourism. You've got the little creepy guys trying to sell you fake artifacts. We joke about that in our movies and our culture, but that's not limited to Egypt. That could be New York. New Yorkers trying to sell you a watch on the street. So anyway, there's the Pyramids of Giza, and let's see how that turned out compared to the photograph. It's not not too far from the photograph. I got a pretty good shot from my perspective this time. Let's see how it turned out to, let me show you. First off, I have to turn the microphones off so that I can eject this. I need to get a different camera so that I can show you guys stuff without taking all of this apart. Right now, everything depends on my phone. I do so much with my phone, it's ridiculous. All right, no, you don't want to see me. That's not what we're after. Good thing I'm wearing clothes. Okay, so there, that's about the perspective I was looking at. So there's my version of it. Subtle hint. All right, so that's what we did today, Monday. Tomorrow, Tuesday, let's see what the little girls got for us. Oh, the anticipation. Anticipation is making me. Wait, is it an? Oh, what is that? Is that an Inuit? I believe. Okay, it says Eskimo, but we're gonna go with the more politically correct Inuit. So that's what we're gonna do tomorrow. If you're watching this on Tuesday morning at before 5:30 in the morning, Tuesday, July 1st, 2025, before 5:30 in the morning, then you're watching the trailer, and this is what we're about to do. So stick around. We're gonna do this right now. But as the time that I'm filming it, this is tomorrow's show. And so we're going to do an Inuit tomorrow. And hopefully I will see you guys there tomorrow when we do the Inuit. This is my favorite time of the day when I come downstairs and I art with my besties. We touch a little taboo stuff, but we mostly just talk about science, nature, and art while we draw. I look forward to it every morning. Be sure and tune in tomorrow morning. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And we dance. We dance. We dance until somebody says, take your mic off, because that is how I know that the lag has caught up to the stream and I won't be cut off mid-sentence and nobody will miss what we're trying to do tomorrow. It's just not as important as it used to be. You know, when we were doing this 15 years ago, that lag was really bad. But right now, I don't think the lag does what it used to do.